Have you ever asked yourself, what is this dream trying to tell me? Have you ever had a dream when you're sleeping at night that you are so curious of what is the meaning behind this dream? That is what we're talking about today on the Happiness Happens podcast. And my guest joining me is Megan Mary. Megan Mary is a dream worker that specializes in the analysis of women's dreams to promote transformative personal growth and enlightenment. Founder of Women's Dream Analysis, the Women's Dream Enlightenment podcast, and the Women's Dream Collective, she's an intuitive introvert mystic and author. After being diagnosed with 3 chronic illnesses, she experienced a spiritual awakening, and she now works with women all over the world offering dream interpretation, transformative journeys, and enlightened guidance. She lives in Idaho with her rock star drummer husband and 2 cats. This conversation is so cool because we dive into what is the significance of dreams, how to use them on your personal and professional development, and also how to use it to tap into your overall purpose in this world. Not only that, we also talk about what happens if you don't dream and if you never remember your dreams. So without further ado, let's get into today's conversation. Megan, welcome to Happiness Happens. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you for having me, Simona.
You're so welcome. We're going to have so much fun today. We are talking all about dreams and understanding how to interpret them, which is really cool. I've never dived into this topic on the podcast or in general, but I love Googling what my dreams mean. So I'm really excited for this conversation.
Okay, awesome. Let's do it.
Amazing. Okay, so I'm going to start off our conversation today with a question that I ask every single guest on the show, and it's the way that I open up each and every episode. The question is, what does happiness mean to you?
Yes, I love this question. And to me, happiness means freedom from suffering. It's really what
Ooh.
is in absence, I think, is where that comes from. And I think there's a number of types of suffering, and I don't really necessarily mean
Mm.
physical, but also emotional, spiritual, that when we are no longer trying to make something happen or putting the shoulds on ourselves or struggling with our direction in life or the big existential questions about who we are and why we're here, then I feel
Mhm.
that's where we can really step into that authentic happiness that isn't forced.
Mhm. That's a really interesting perspective. And I feel like we can add extra stress and pressure every single day, extra fear, extra shame and guilt. And it's almost this like cycle of, I don't know if you've ever felt this way, but I know that I have, of like being almost addicted to the chaos and not being able to be at peace because it's like a constant chase of like that feeling. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, the chaos is a good way to put it because there's so much noise, and it's both
Mhm.
inside ourselves and coming from outside ourselves, and part of it's self-induced, but part of it is also externally pressurized, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with you. So, okay, so today we are talking about understanding our dreams. And I know that you're doing a program right now under the Dream Study Group and Foundation series. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what that is?
Oh, yes. So that's actually completed. It was a year-long study that was at the International Association for the Study of Dreams. And it very much is an organization that promotes the awareness and appreciation for dream studies. And so that foundational
Mhm.
series was really looking at all the different researchers that have come in that have either founded or are part of the organization and the different methods that they have for doing dream analysis. Because interestingly, they're all different. So some people really feel that there is a benefit in group analysis, and other people have other methods that they look at on an individual basis, and some emphasize
Mhm.
different aspects over others. And so the approaches are all very different, and they're also all very different from, I guess, the traditional psychoanalytic approach as well, because they really range the gamut and it allows for additional perspectives that you might not know existed. And so my perspective combines all the different perspectives that I've studied and puts my own take on it, which is really a mystical one. It's very much a metaphysical one in terms of dreams being a catalyst for personal growth.
Okay. And so, just to clarify for everyone who's listening to this right now, when we're talking about dreams, we don't mean like the dreams that you have for yourself in your life. We mean the literal dreams that you have every night.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure that people are not listening to this and being like, I have dreams and goals and stuff like that. It's totally different. So, how did you start to begin to tap into the desire to understand what is being communicated to us in our dreams while we're sleeping?
Yeah, so it started for me very much as a child. When I was younger, I had recurring both nightmares and amazing flying dreams. And I always wanted to know why we had them, what was happening when I was having them, and what they meant. And I did the same thing that most people do. And I would look on, online or in books, trying to figure out dictionaries that you'd end up looking from A to Z at one thing and then another thing and trying to figure out what they meant. And none of it ever really resonated with me. And I was very drawn to all of the metaphysical, esoteric, philosophical, all those different approaches to life and theories about our existence, and knew that there was more to it than we were being told. And so eventually, in my adulthood, I came to a point where I really started having a combination of a lot of chronic illnesses. And at that point, my health was so bad that I realized I had to start doing some inner healing work as well to really approach that mind, body, spirit holistic approach. And to do that, I started meditating. And when I started meditating, I started really reopening myself up to receiving guidance. And a lot of that guidance started coming through my dreams. And I started remembering that this was a source of information that I had neglected over the years and that I should pay attention to it. And when I did start paying attention to it, that's when all this guidance started coming in. And I realized that it was really my calling at that time to not only do that for myself, but to spread the word publicly so that other people could harness that for themselves.
That is really cool. And so when you're in a dream state, right? And let's say you're having a dream. Let's say you have a dream about, you know, falling, or a dream about being pregnant, or a dream about being chased or something like that, right? I feel like there's kind of like core dreams that a lot of people tend to experience even though they're in different ways. One of the things I've always done, similar to what you were saying before, but that didn't resonate with you, was Googling my dreams. So, where does one begin with trying to understand what these dreams are trying to tell us? Like, how do you start to take that information and turn it into the guidance that you're talking about?
Yes. So I really look at dreams as stories. And I feel
Hmm.
that they need to be decoded, translated, if you will, from the subconscious into the conscious. And that each dream is delivered in a dream language that is specific to that dreamer. So even though there are common archetypes and cultural tropes and shared fears and all these kinds of things, I feel that that misleads us a bit because then we're looking at the commonalities and we're not looking at the individualities. We're not looking at what is specific about the scenario in that dream. So you could meet up with your girlfriend in the morning and over coffee say, I had a dream about being chased last night. And she could say, I did too. And then it's like, oh, we had the same dream. No, it's completely different because what happened in yours? And then you're going to start talking about the details. Well, I was in this place and it was kind of like where I used to live, but it wasn't. And it was different. And then I did this and then I did that. And everything about it is going to be different. So by brushing a broad stroke, you're missing the message for yourself. So, what I really try and do in my method that I've devised, that I call the dream mirror method, is really to get people to look at the specific settings and places and situations and people and actions and emotions and all the things that are happening that you're not saying, you're just talking about the commonality. And then draw out from that what is the association to those things in your waking life. So, how is the dream a metaphor, a metaphorical story about something that you're experiencing in your waking life? And so, if they may very well be that you are metaphorically running from something, but what you're metaphorically running from is different from what your friend is. And so, the premise of the dream is going to give us more information about what that might be.
Okay, that's a really, really, really interesting perspective because a lot of the times when I have a dream, especially something that's significant, and I Google it and it'll tell you like the definition of what that type of dream will mean, right? Typically, if it's a dream about you being pregnant or giving birth or something like that, a lot of the times people will be like, oh my God, is that what's happening in my life? And it's no, it's like you're birthing something new. You have a new creation, something, and so it's a really interesting piece that you're saying of taking that and sort of analyzing it in how it portrays itself in your everyday life. That is really cool. And so I'm guessing then by that or by this perspective, you are cultivating your life and tapping into your life's purpose and taking what's, in your subconscious mind, I guess, and bringing it to fruition in your world.
Yes, absolutely. And it's ironic that you use that example because I was actually contacted by a journalist this morning for a piece about just that, dreams about being pregnant. And your, you know, what you said is pretty right on. In my view, it's not necessarily this literal prediction, although people can have premonition dreams. I'm not going to say that that's not a possibility, just like we have visitation dreams. But normally I look at those types of dreams as like metaphors for your life, and what are you giving birth to, what is this burgeoning possibility in your life, right? And so it is all coming from your subconscious. And I feel that one of the biggest hurdles next to getting people to appreciate their dreams, remember their dreams, is for them to understand, well, why would we do this in the first place? And that really gets to that personal transformation piece, because so many people are doing reading self-help books, taking classes, watching seminars, watching videos, listening to people talk, trying to figure out how to answer those big questions about why they're here, what their purpose is, what reality is, what the dream world is, what the limitations of our or boundlessness of our existence. And I feel that dream work opens that door for us. It's really a doorway to learning so much about ourselves, as well as having a greater spiritual intelligence and spiritual awareness, because I feel that we are spirits before we are humans and people, and that the dream world really is much like a spirit world, if not the spirit world. And so I feel that dream work can be fundamental in discovering so much about yourself, and also self-healing and self-care.
That is really, really powerful. And so, how would you guide someone or suggest someone to start to remember what their dreams are? Do you write them down? Because I know sometimes, like, I wake up and I'm like, oh, that was such a good dream. And then within 20 minutes later, once you get back, you're kind of out of that dreamlike state into regular world and all that, you've completely lost it. And so you've lost the message. And then sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I'm never going to get it back.
Correct. Yes, you do. And you forget about 50% after the first 5 minutes. And yeah, and it's mostly because we're transitioning brainwave states. So when we're awake, we're in beta, and when we're sleeping, we're in theta, which is the same brainwave state that we go in when we meditate. And so when we're transitioning out of those states, we do. We completely lose it. So the dream journaling is really the key to that. And it can be however it works for you to record it. So it doesn't have to be writing it down. If you want to talk it into your phone, if you want to just voice record it, that's fine too. And then you can go back and listen to it, because you are going to lose it if you don't capture it. And for a lot of people, it's that capturing practice that can be the most inhibiting at the beginning, because they're used to just waking up and going about their day, and they're not taking the time to reflect backwards, to capture it. But once you do that, then the more you work that muscle, the stronger the dream recall muscle becomes. So the more you will be able to remember more, the more you will start to activate those parts of your brain that allow you to step back into it and allow you to remember it in more detail.
That's really cool. Because again, you're right. Like everything, it is a muscle at the end of the day, like everything else. What does it mean if someone says, I never dream or I never remember my dreams?
Yes, and that's very, very, very common, more than I
Yeah.
thought. So really, we all do 3 to 5 dreams a night, but you are just not remembering them. Now, the only other reason that might not be true is if you've had an injury to the brain, or if you're on certain medications. All of those things can play a factor. But if you haven't had those situations, then you're just not remembering them. And you probably at some point subconsciously turned off your dream recall. You didn't mean to, you didn't know you did, but you might have had a dream that had a message that you weren't ready to receive and that you didn't want to pay attention to. And so you said, okay, that's it. I'm not listening anymore. And you pretty much turned it off, and it said, okay, we'll be quiet then. And that's kind of how the subconscious and the intuition is. It's very subtle, and it's more like a whisper. And the more you listen to it, the louder it gets. But if you don't want to listen to it, it's not going to yell at you, unless, of course, that's kind of what nightmares are like. So if you're having a recurring dream or you're having a nightmare, it's your subconscious yelling at you, essentially. So one of the ways to start doing that is just journaling. Even if it's not a dream journal, just start writing down your thoughts. Just start transferring that information from your mind to your waking life, and really start to invite the introduction of that invitation of that information.
That's amazing. So then from here, once you've tapped into your dreams, you're starting to record them, you're starting to become aware. What are some of the transformations that you've seen people you've worked with or clients or what have you sort of achieve by tapping into their dreams, their dreamlike state and remembering
Yes.
these guides, I guess?
So many. Pretty much every time it's kind of like this aha moment where they come in thinking, well, a lot of trepidation. I'm not even sure the stream is good enough. I don't think it means anything, or I'm not sure I'm ready to share it or ready to delve into it. And then when they do, it's very much like, oh, okay, the veil peeling back, the curtains peeling back, that realization of, okay, because the dreams don't tell you what you already know. So when you think, oh, I know what this is about, maybe you don't, or it wouldn't be telling you that. So there is more to it. And many times they will come to me with a pretty good dream record. But then when I start going through my method and asking them the questions, oh, well, actually it was this. I didn't write this down, but it was like this whole thing. It was actually like this. And I say, okay, now we're getting to it. Now, what does that mean to you? What does that remind you of? Oh, okay. And so they really start, the more I ask questions, the more it draws out those threads, and the more it pulls the dreamer into the scenario, which really gives them the agency, because I want them to be the transformer. I don't want to be the one to hold all the answers and I'm the oracle and you just have to come knock on my door and there's no way you can find out that information. I want to empower you, and that's why I call it dream empowerment, because I want you to realize that this is there for you. It's your dreams, and there's a way that you can access it on a regular basis basis and use it as your own oracle, essentially.
I love that because I like pulling cards and I like, getting readings and like all that kind of stuff. But a lot of the times when you're using these different tools, even though the tools are all amazing, they are still you trying to validate something that's external to you, right?
Yes,
But if you're tapping into your dreams specifically, you're really doing that work from the inside out. Like you're getting your own guidance and you're learning how to trust your own self.
exactly. And it's really activating your intuition, your
Mm.
inner knowing, your higher self, your universal self, the
Mhm.
wisdom of all that connection that we are part of that we can tap into.
I love that. What's one of your favorite dreams to have, or like a dream that you have on repeat when you know you're on the right path or something like that?
Hmm. There's a number of dreams that I've had where they're different, I'll call them guides,
Mm.
that greet me or are celebrating me or are
Mm.
showing me something or are whispering something in my ear. That seems to be a common theme for me on this path since I've embraced this path, that it's different every time, but I can tell, okay, that was really some wisdom right there. That was some guidance. That is
Mhm.
my kind of team celebrating me, or my, guidance along the way saying, I'm here. You might not be able to see me, but if you ask, I can help you and I'm here.
Hmm. I love that. Is there anything else that you think is important for people to know and understand about dreams, dream analysis, dream like state, remembering their dreams, like anything like that?
I think one of the most important things is to validate yourself with it.
Mm.
Stop denigrating your own experience, because a lot of people feel ashamed or silly or ignore them or
Mhm.
embarrassed or just kind of push it down. And that's just going to make it worse. That's just going to
Yeah.
cut you off more. And so it really is supposed to be a empowering experience where you can gain confidence, where you can gain access to the real treasures that you hold inside, the ones you're looking for.
Mm.
And so really embrace that, really embrace what is part of half of our experience here, is that dream world. So why ignore it, right? It's like an unopened letter, right?
Mm. I love that. Where can my listener find you so they can connect with you and learn more?
Yes, womensdreamanalysis.com is my website. And on there, I offer online courses for Women's Guide to Dream Decoding. I have virtual sessions, as well as my Women's Empowerment Dream Empowerment Program, which I spoke of, which is really a series of working together on your dreams. But then I also help you integrate the wisdom that you gain from the dreams with sound frequencies and affirmations and a lot of different other fun modalities. And I also have my podcast, Women's Dream Enlightenment,
Love
where I
that.
bring women on. They tell their stories of spiritual awakening, and I also interpret dreams live on the show.
Ooh, that's cool. I really like that.
Yes. Yes.
That's amazing. This is my final question, and it's a question that I ask every single guest that comes on the podcast. What's one way that my listener can create a little more happiness in their day every day starting today?
Writing. That would be my answer, because I feel that writing is one of those beautiful practices that expresses our innermost thoughts, and it can be very healing. As an author myself, I find that telling stories, or at least just writing down my thoughts every day, is a very healing process, and it's very expressive and creative process. And I've actually going to be releasing my debut novel this fall, which is a metaphysical mystery. It's a fiction, but it's very
Oh,
much
cool.
about a woman's self discovery through dreams. And so, meganmary.com is my author site. And I encourage everybody to just pick up the pen every day and write down your thoughts.
I love that. That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Simona, for having this wonderful conversation. I really appreciate it.
Me too. You're welcome. And thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode on Happiness Happens. Be sure to connect with Megan and let her know how much you love this episode. Let me know how much you loved our conversation. Maybe there's something to discover and explore with the dreams that you have, or maybe why you don't dream. There's always something to explore and look into there. So thank you so much for being here today. I hope you have a lovely day. And remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it.